Hi everyone, welcome to tonight's Facebook Live. My name is Julie Ann Fay, and I will be doing another one of my new full moon astro walkthroughs tonight. Tonight I'll be going over the upcoming full moon in Taurus, coming up very early Tuesday morning on November 12th. Before I kind of dive in a little deeper, let me check that I'm going live properly. Okay, looks like we're good. So if you're catching me live, definitely leave a comment so that I can know that you're here. If you're watching this on replay on my Facebook business page or on my YouTube, welcome, welcome. And if you're new to this series, I do a variety of different Facebook Lives. I do my Stars with the Stars series, which is when I go over different celebrity charts. I go over their astrology. I have my new and full moon astro walkthrough series where I'm going over every 2 weeks the new or full moon and the astrology around that, and following the moon cycles, which are bi-monthly. And then I also do my cards for the collective series, which is when I exclusively do oracle cards and I pull cards live. Sometimes I do pick a card, sometimes I do sign by sign for the week. I have a variety of different ways I do that, but that's my cards for the collective series. So if you're watching this, you're watching the astrology series based on the new and the full moon cycle. So it feels like we just had this, and I'm going to pull up this kind of list here because I know it's a little weird to look at the screen share thing. You know, we just had the new moon in Scorpio, right before Halloween. It honestly feels like it was just yesterday. I swear. I know I'm still integrating a lot of the energy of that, the Scorpio vibes. We're in Scorpio season. We're in a Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. So that may be why there's just so much Scorpio energy prevalent. But believe it or not, we're coming up on this full moon in Taurus. And I can definitely, at the same time that I'm feeling the Scorpio vibes, I am also feeling the Taurian vibes, because there's been a lot of messages coming up for me lately, especially in the past day or two, about owning my worth, honoring my worth. Is it worth it? Various things in my life that really assessing and looking at what's worthwhile and value systems, what's of value. All of these things are related to Taurus, So lots of energy coming up here, and it's going to sort of, right now it's kind of ripe, but it's going to like really come to like full term when we approach the, into Sunday and into Monday, and then the moon will be exact full Tuesday morning at 8:34 a.m. at 19 degrees. So if you are a Taurus, if you're born between like 10 and 20 degrees of Taurus, or let me rephrase, Merc retro. If you're born effectively from 10 degrees of Taurus, even 9 degrees maybe, but that's like kind of a wide orb there. So I would say 9 degrees of Taurus up to the end of Taurus, you're going to be feeling the effects of this full moon in Taurus. If you're a very early Taurus, like less than 10 degrees, it's not affecting you as much, but it is still in the same sign. So you'll still be feeling it more than other people that don't have as strong of Taurus aspects in their chart, but definitely people that have closer degrees will be feeling it the most. So without further ado, let's look at the chart for this full moon in Taurus. And I've gone ahead and pre-done that for us. So we have it here. And we have the full moon in Taurus on Tuesday, November 12th, 2019, of course. And I've just plotted this for New York. So if you are local to like EST time or the Northeast, this chart will actually be very relevant to you. It will be applicable to everybody though, because I'm not really going over the ascendant, descendant, IC, midheaven, and house systems with this. We're really just looking at the placement of the planets in signs in relation to each other and the degrees and all that good stuff. So if you had a chance to watch my new moon in Scorpio astro walkthrough, which I wanted to do a shout out to my YouTube. I'm going to pull it up really quick. Yeah, just checking all is well going live. Since it's Merc Retro, I'm like hyper attentive to the technology stuff. I was just on here actually kind of editing the playlists and sharpening them up to what my current, you know, series are, or series is. I don't know what the right thing there is. So what I've done is I've put together all of the Facebook Lives from basically 2 years. So when I first started doing my Facebook Lives in 2017, there's the archive Facebook Lives here. These are older pick-a-cards I've done. And then also you can see kind of card of the day. These two are like a series in and of themselves, so you can definitely check those out. But the ones that are the most current are the cards for the collective, the new and the full moon astrology walkthroughs, and the stars with the stars celebrity astro chart series, or my stars with the stars series. And definitely head over to my YouTube, give it some love. There's tons of content on here, so I'd love more people to be receiving this content. You know, watch these videos, comment, subscribe, do all of the things, because there's really a lot that you can learn by going in here. You know, I come from a teaching background, so when I talk about things, a lot of the time I'm teaching you, right? So if you're wanting to learn astrology, definitely watch some of these astrology videos. You know, it's a great way to learn. It's being guided through different dynamics in an astrology chart. If you're wanting spiritual guidance, definitely watch the cards for the collective. You know, any of these that say Facebook Live, those are also card pull ones. And then, you know, you can also look at the pick a card ones or the card of the day ones, different things. So yeah, I just wanted to do a shout out to my YouTube there. And like I said, I've kind of organized the playlists a little better. So if you go to playlists, you can see the different ones there. You guys won't see this because this is mine. But the cards for the collective, the new and the full moon, Astro walkthrough, stars with the stars, and there's even more. But these three are the three primary ones that I'm doing moving forward. So I wanted to do a shout out to that. So let's pop back over here to the chart. Hi, Brandy. So good to see you. So good to see you. So it looks like on the feed that it's still catching up with some of the YouTube stuff I was talking about. So let's get into the chart. So I'm recording this much later than I usually do for my Facebook Lives, but that's okay. However, we're actually very early, if that makes sense, to talk about this full moon in Taurus, because the full moon in Taurus doesn't occur until Tuesday morning. I will say, though, that I'm starting to feel it, you know, and let me know in the comments if you're starting to feel it. This is bringing up a lot of energy around self-worth, things related to money and value systems, and really self-confidence as it relates to self-worth and value and all of these things. I definitely feel like we're still integrating a lot from that new moon in Scorpio, and I think part of that is because we're in Scorpio season. We've got the Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. There's a lot of attention on Scorpio stuff, you know, cutting cords, karma clearing, getting to the bottom of things, researching, excavating information. There's so much going on with all of that. So I personally feel like this full moon in Taurus is very welcome, because it's going to kind of balance out some of that Scorpio energy and illuminate the other side of the story. And, you know, also with that new moon in Scorpio, if you had a chance to watch that video, I talked about how strong Uranus was in relation to that new moon. And I showed you guys the blog post that I did on Uranus and Taurus, the transit, the long-term transit we're under. So we're still integrating those like Uranian vibes from that new moon, which bring about unpredictability, sudden changes, disruptions. And these disruptions are not done because like the universe is evil. You know, these disruptions are done because it's like there's a better way. There's some type of new way that actually could evolve. You know, and I've gone through this recently where like things have taken a left turn, and you know, it can like shock you, right, when like these things come through. But the medicine behind it is that it's taking a left turn because there's something down that path in the left turn that's actually better for you, or like stronger for you, or of higher vibe for you to explore and maybe do, you know. Cool. Yeah, I definitely agree, Brandy. So let's kind of get into some of the aspects with this full moon in Taurus chart here. The new moon in Scorpio, I keep going back to it, but it's just like there's so much Scorpio energy. The new moon in Scorpio chart, when I went over that one, it was very concentrated. If I remember, I just was kind of looking at it very briefly before starting this one. And, you know, it had a lot of energy concentrated in like two places, basically in Scorpio and Capricorn, if I'm remembering. There might have been like I think definitely the North Node in Cancer, but there was a lot of energy concentrated in almost like two places of the chart. So that made it a situation of like very hot or not, you know, like very black and white, like getting to the bottom of it, like, is it this or is it that? Very like clear cut type of energy, you know. So now we're moving into a little bit more mutability because we're starting to have more planets in Sag, right? Jupiter's been transiting in Sag for a while. It's almost done with that. But we've had Venus in Sag. It's so funny because I pulled up this chart and I was like, oh, no wonder I'm having so much troubles and stress because I plotted the transits. And right now, Venus is like about here. I'll show you guys real quick. Yeah, so right now Venus is here. I think when I looked at it, it was around 7 degrees of Sag. Yeah, so that's actually squaring my personal Venus in Virgo. And by the time we get to this full moon in Taurus, that will actually be conjunct my Saturn. So that's going to be interesting. But I'm very Venus ruled because I'm a Libra rising and my moon is in Libra. So that's like double Venus, right? So this is where you put pieces together too in astrology. Like, for example, you know, Brandy, I know you have a lot of Aries energy in your chart. So that means that Mars is very important to you and the shifting placement of Mars, right? So when Mars changes sign, that could really affect you, you know, because you're very Mars ruled. And you can look at other rulerships too. So like your ascendant, right? So pretty sure you're Pisces ascendant, if I remember, I think so. So that means that you're Neptune ruled. Yeah, so you're Neptune ruled. So you would want to look at Neptune. Now, Neptune was super, super slow. So that's not really going to change. But, you know, Mars, Venus, Mercury, these definitely are important ones you can look at, you know? So let's see where I was at. So we've got, so by this chart, it's showing like Venus on the ascendant, but that's because of the placement. So that's more so for like East Coast people, you know? We're not really going to talk about they call them the angles of the chart. We're not going to talk about that too much. Well, it's funny how like skewed it is, right? So let's look at some of these aspects. So first we have the full moon itself. So the sun is at 19 degrees of Scorpio. And remember, this is the chart for Tuesday morning. So we're approaching this energy, but we're not fully in it yet. I'm recording this on Thursday for you all. So we have the sun here at 19 degrees, and then we have the moon in Taurus at 19 degrees. Honestly, I'm pretty happy with this spot because it's not, I mean, it could actually be, and I might eat my words on this, but this could actually be a little bit of a static, or I'm putting some like air quotes, boring full moon, for the fact that it's not with Uranus anymore, you know? So the Uranus brings like excitement, electricity, and innovation. This is too far away from that, you know? And it's not at the end of Taurus, closer to Gemini, where we have some really powerful fixed stars and other energy that goes on, which can be very intense, but also transformative and very like Kundalini vibe kind of stuff. So this is like in the middle, you know. Now, what is interesting is that it's definitely the sun conjunct Mercury in Scorpio. So we are doing a lot of detective work. We're doing a lot of digging, you know, a lot of excavating, asking questions. We might be asking people questions that they're very uncomfortable with, because Scorpio isn't always comfortable, right? It's like going into kind of those deeper realms and like excavating those like hidden or dark subconscious things, you know? Yeah, for sure, Brandy. So all of us are doing this right now. I know I'm doing it a lot too, where there's a lot of questions that need answers, and the only way to kind of get to those answers is by sometimes asking more questions. So there's definitely like a lot of detective work going on here, a lot of investigating. This could be also a lot of research. So this is a good time to be doing those things, you know, and because it's Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, you can see that this little R, you know, so it's retrograde. It's like you might be doing research and like think that you've come up with the answers and then realize you have to go back and like research again, you know, or going into things that maybe are hidden or deeper and really excavating like more information around it. But you want to think of terms like excavating or like detective work or research when we talk about Sun conjunct Mercury, because that is literally the mind wanting to penetrate the depths of the subconscious and those hidden things. I feel like I kind of had an epiphany come through while watching a pick a card video today about something with myself, something karmic about myself and my subconscious patterns. And I feel like that's very Sun conjunct Mercury, you know, kind of vibe. So there's a lot of this like detective work going on, a lot of this digging, but this full moon is going to bring up, okay, so now that you've unearthed this information, what do we do about it emotionally? You know, so it's like it's one thing to look up the information and research it and get the answers, but it's another thing to say, I want to hold on to that, or okay, I'm going to choose like A over B, right? That's like another side of it. So Scorpio is really good at getting in there and getting like penetrating energy, getting in there and getting those answers. But there comes another piece of it, which is that discernment of what is good for you to have, to hold, to carry through, to give your time, your energy, and your attention to. Because Taurus carries the energy of almost like holding, or, you know, both of them can be about wanting. They're on the axis of desire. But Scorpio is about almost like Mars. It is ruled by Mars and Pluto. So it's going in there and like getting involved with it, getting intimate with it, you know, doesn't necessarily use as much discernment about what to get involved with. Taurus gives us the other side of that story, which is, okay, this thing is actually more valuable than this other thing. So I want to take on, I want to hold, I want to carry through with like option B over option A because this is actually of greater value to me. So Taurus provides that discernment, you know. So this is like an important thing to understand about this full moon. When we look at, you know, the full moon, it is trining over to Saturn and Pluto. Definitely Saturn really strong. It's within a 3-degree orb. And this we could see because they're in the same sign. So that's really good. So this is like, this full moon in Taurus is very Saturn approved. In fact, this whole lunar cycle has been very Saturn approved because Saturn was harmonizing well with Scorpio, you know, during the new moon. And, you know, Saturn is now even more in harmony with this full moon in Taurus because it's Earth and Earth. And it's also agreeing with Pluto as well. So Saturn approves of this discernment and this looking at, is it of value, you know? And we still have these strong aspects from the Sun and Mercury down to, you know, Saturn and Pluto. So a continuation of the story that was started when we entered Scorpio season about, you know, the energy here. This is a sextile, so this is harmonious, so this is water and earth. So honestly, Saturn's pretty happy right now. You know, if we look, it doesn't really have too many harsh aspects. Mars at the end of Libra, though, isn't really vibing very well here. Definitely not as much with Pluto. Oh my gosh, this is right now, this Mars is between my moon and my ascendant, which is not exactly a fun place for me to have that to be. So we've definitely got this Mars square Pluto, though, going on with this full moon, and we do have a Mars square Saturn, but in wider orbs. So Mars square Saturn, I feel like we had one of those not that long ago. I'm remembering, it seems very familiar. Unless it was Mars, I'm forgetting why that's so familiar. Because Saturn wouldn't have moved that much. I don't know. But we've definitely got this Mars square Saturn, so this could be like you want to move forward, but there's blockages. There's things that have to be reworked and redone, you know. And then Mars square Pluto is very interesting because Pluto and Mars are actually the co-rulers of Scorpio. So they do have an appreciation for each other. But when we put them at odds at this angle, it's like a little bit like Pluto is frowning upon maybe how slowly, you know, this Mars in Libra is acting. It's like, dude, you're kind of lagging behind. Like, we're trying to move forward here, and you're doing too much deliberating, you know, the scales, or you're feeling like you don't have as much physical strength or energy to do this transformation that we're trying to do, you know. So could be a little bit of self-sabotage there if you're thinking about things like your physical strength or like your stamina, or Mars is even related to the ego too. So something of the mind, like you think that you're not good enough and you're asking other people to validate you. It could be things like that, you know? So definitely some interesting energy there. And then we also have, it is showing, you know, Mars oppose Uranus, but that's only going to strengthen as Mars leaves Libra and goes into Scorpio. So I'm not going to talk about that just yet because that'll be getting stronger towards the end of the month. What else do we have going on that I want to talk about? We do have a Jupiter square Chiron here. I'm not going to talk about that in this chart. So let's talk about, so we have Venus square Neptune. So Venus here is at 13 degrees of Sag, which is a difficult degree for me because that makes a Venus conjunct Saturn for me, which is not really fun. So this Venus square Neptune, so Venus is in mutable Sagittarius. So this means that when it comes to our relationships, romance, this could also be our relationship with ourselves and money. We're a little bit all over the place right now. We're kind of like exploring different things, you know. It might not be very grounded with like certain relationships in your life, or even with yourself. Like you feel very ungrounded, or you feel like your finances are kind of all over the place. Sometimes it's like surprises, things come out of nowhere because Sagittarius is Jupiter ruled, so that does carry like good luck and good fortune, you know. So it's not quite the same as like a mutable Pisces or a mutable Virgo, because it carries a little bit of a good luck element. But if you're somebody that, I think most of us are, prefer to be kind of grounded as that's going on, that's not necessarily the case. And we definitely have this Venus square Neptune. So this could be that when it comes to situations around money, there's confusion, you know, there's kind of like this fog or this difficulty in understanding what you believe in versus what's spiritually connected. You know, we've been having this Jupiter Neptune square going on like in various cycles throughout this year, on and off. It's happened, you know, in waves over the course of this year. So now Venus coming through there is bringing up some similar vibes, but it's more specific to like relationships and money. So it's saying, you know, these relationships that I have in my life, do we believe in the same things? You know, are we spiritually connected? And those are similar things, but not necessarily the exact same. And that's why it's a square, because they're like competing energies, right? They're in the same family, but they have tension and ways that maybe they might have to have more conversations, more communication to kind of work it out. So the way that you work squares is by giving each person their due, each person their say. Squares are different than oppositions because oppositions, it's almost like they need each other. They balance each other out, you know, the opposing signs. Squares are different because they don't necessarily crave or need each other or fulfill each other like they would in an opposition or opposites. With squares, it's more like, you know, a cousin kind of relationship. It's like you have some things in common, but you also have a lot of differences. So how do you work that out? You know, and it might involve you having to like look at the ways that you have similarities and look at the ways that you have differences and do some like negotiating work there. So that's what's going on here, is assessing definitely what is of value, because value is a big part of this full moon in Taurus. What's of value for me to bring into my life in like a romantic context or a relationship context? because we share a similar belief system, you know, versus are we spiritually connected? Are we part of the same spiritual mission? Are we part of the same spiritual path? Is this person compassionate to me? Is this person kind to me? Is this person loving to me? You know, does this person kind of like soften maybe like any harshness or walls they might have towards being with me? These are things that you're looking at and kind of like thinking about and addressing. And that's a lot. That's a lot of energy to integrate, you know? So the good news, I'm sure some people won't think it's good news. Some astrologers don't, you know, it depends on what's in your chart and everything. But I'm really looking forward to Jupiter going into Capricorn, which will be happening at the beginning of December. So it's coming up pretty fast, you know, in about a month from now, we'll be in Jupiter in Cap. And personally, as a really strong earth sign, I cannot wait because, well, definitely I'm biased because it's going to trine my Virgo planets, but also I just feel like we as a collective need grounding. Like we need it so badly, you know. Jupiter in Sag has been so much exploration, so much of looking at different pathways and options and doorways and looking at different ways to expand and learn things. Remember that Sagittarius is like the wanderer and it's about, you know, exploring. So it's like we've gone on this quest all over the world and we've like explored things, we've tried new foods, we've met new people, we've tried so many different things on for size. Capricorn is where you like go back home and you start to now integrate and put to work, put to a very grounded, specific focus, building something around what you've learned. So Capricorn is where we actually apply what we've explored and learned and actually put it to work in following the path. Now, it's not as like wild and crazy and exciting as Sag can be, but we live in a world in which things have to be functional and they have to be built, right? So through that, like I have a lot of respect for Capricorn energy because they are the builders of the world in that way, and that's what we're moving into. So I think it's very necessary. And anyway, off my Jupiter Capricorn soapbox, but so we've got this Venus square Neptune, and then we also have still, but leaving that Jupiter square Neptune, which is more of the same of this Venus square Neptunes, but we'll feel really strongly the Venus square Neptune the most, which, you know, could be kind of intense there. But the good news about mutable energy is that it's like, it's all over the place, it's kind of crazy, and then they shake it out and it changes quickly, you know? So things are constantly moving and changing all the time. And I think if you know, like a Virgo, a Gemini, a Sag, or a Pisces, you know that they have that where it's like the energy is like disrupted and things come in and then they process it through, they shake it out, and they come out the other side. Unlike maybe fixed signs, which could hold on to things, you know, for much, much longer. And the fixed signs would be, you know, Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, and Scorpio. Cardinal signs, so that would be Cancer, Capricorn, Aries, and Libra, they will feel that way initially. They'll be like very hung up on it, but then as they move deeper into their season, they're able to kind of move off it. Mutable signs are able to like process like energy coming at them from like left, right, sideways, diagonally, upside down, and like deal with it and kind of move through it. So it's very unique compared to the other signs too. So we talked about the Saturn trine moon. So if I could pin down the really important aspects to pay attention to for this full moon in Taurus, I would look at the Sun conjunct Mercury opposing the moon. So this is a great time to be doing research, detective work, excavating things. This is a great time to be asking questions, to be looking at things at a deeper level, because you want to be getting more layers of things to get to deeper answers. So not just being like complacent, to like take something at surface level and really go deeper with it. Ask questions that maybe are uncomfortable for you to ask, because now is the time. So doing that, and I think that the full moon in Taurus is going to illuminate, okay, now that you've done all this research, what can you start to look at that's like of greatest value that you want to start giving your time and energy and attention to? So that's the first thing I would definitely advise. The second thing is this Saturn and Pluto conjunction that's trine over to the moon in Taurus. So understanding that as you're doing that values assessment, you're supported by these major outer planetary players that are wanting you to build this new path in your life and shape this like huge transformation you're going through with your career and the things that you're building in your life. So it's supported by Saturn and Pluto. You know, it's on the path. As you're doing this value assessment, shake off the feelings like you don't have time for this or it's not worthwhile, because it is. You know, it's a far greater thing to take a little bit of extra time, and Taurus knows this really well. It's a far greater thing to take a bit of time to really process something and assess it for what it's worth before you commit to the path of it, you know. So that's point number 2. Point number 3 is the Venus square Neptune. So this will definitely be felt by people, and this will be a lot of mutable energy, a lot of changeability around the people in your life, the relationships in your life, and that includes like coworkers, friendship, romance, all the different types of relationships we have. Also your relationship with yourself and money. There's going to be a lot of mutable energy there where you're exploring different things, different people, different situations coming across your path. And in the process of that, that's going to be causing you to look at these people and situations, and do we share the same belief systems? Do we have the same ethics, the same values? And then also, you know, are we connected spiritually? Are we on the same spiritual path? Do we have a certain amount of compassion that can be expressed between each other? These are things you're going to be looking at and asking yourself. So I think we're pretty much at time. I'm going to wrap it up here. I did also want to do a quick shout out. So on my blog, I published this the other night. Let's see if this will load up properly. Yeah, so on my blog, which I will post this in the comments of the Facebook video as well as the YouTube video, you can see the latest blog post I wrote. So it's astrology and the days of the week. And I actually go over each day of the week and what planet that's ruled by and different things you can learn from that. So definitely check that out. If you enjoy it, feel free to leave a comment. There's a way to leave a comment there. And let me know how it was for you. I always love people reading and receiving the information that will benefit them. And then also, I will be sending out the next email newsletter. I send out a very magical email newsletter within the window of the new and full moon every month. So there's only two a month. And those are just really magical, sparkling newsletters of like many things that I've been doing and working on, as well as information for you to use to guide you. So definitely make sure that you're subscribed to my email newsletter list, because you'll make sure that you're kept up to date with these different things that I'm publishing or that are coming out. And what did I want to show you? Oh yeah, so in this actual video, which again, this will be on the description of the YouTube video as well as here on this video if you're watching this on Facebook. You can go to my YouTube here. There's a link to my YouTube here. You can sign up for my newsletter here. It's just on the home page. Like, you'll scroll down, you'll see my picture, and you'll scroll down and you'll see like a little sign up box. You put in your name and email there. And I think that's everything. So I'm going to end this here. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you caught me live or on replay, thank you. And definitely leave a comment if you're watching the replay so that I can know that you were here. Much love.